This is such a long, convoluted story. I'll do everything I can to spell it out as succinctly as possible. Bought this magnificent powerboat in 2013. Changed my life. Got a divorce. Lost my mind. Found my mind. 2022, sold the powerboat. Bought a sailboat. Found the woman of my dreams who taught me how to sail. Pursued a dream I didn't even realize I had from way, way back. Learned how to sail in 1 year. Went back down south to try to find the magical place that I think we all want in our heart. With gentle winds and beautiful seas. Except this time, I had to put together a crew that could help me get it there. And what that meant was reaching out to people I did not know and trusting that we could all work it out. That meant was juggling food expectations, work requirements, relationships, travel arrangements, and task assignments. This was way more than just jumping on a boat, turning on the key, and heading south. It was major.
What we see here is the need for an endorphin rush. I think the DSM-5 would call it obsession, addiction.
Why else would you consider running your vessel through the frying pan shoals?
Scott, like so many others, is chasing that endorphin rush. It's the same high that runners get. It's the need to feel satiated. When we get down to the heart of the matter, the human condition is designed and desires the need to feel good. Much like a drug addict continually looks for the opiate to artificially stimulate their brain. People that don't have that addiction look for that rush in a more natural way.
Say what you want, but take a brain, a mammalian brain that has been conditioned to get high through, say, sport. Pick a sport, I don't care what it is, tennis, volleyball, basketball. Those endorphin rushes that you get starting at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old, slowly but surely snowball to an effect where by the time you're 18 years old, your brain is hot-wired to get high on endorphin rushes through sports and activities such as. Then all of a sudden, 22, 23, 24 comes, get a job. You're no longer getting that rush like you used to, but you still crave the high. You still crave the rush. How are you going to get it? Oh, nice. The birds. The trolling.
Look at the pelicans. Wow.
The sun set and we settled in for the night. Everything was going great. It was gorgeous. And then out of nowhere, behind us, I could hear what sounded like the dinghy getting ripped off the back of the vessel in the most violent tearing noise I had ever heard. Deb was sitting up in the cockpit with me, riding shotgun. We spun around, and within a split second, we saw a rocket ship of a vessel turn hard to the port from directly behind us and sped off into the distance. It was as if we just saw a ghost. The most frightening moment out of nowhere. No sooner than I realized that no harm was done and it was probably just a prank, reality began to set in that we were about to be faced with a real challenging situation. The winds were about to whip up something fierce. They were talking 30-knot winds. The seas easily could reach 7 foot, which I really haven't even ever been in with this boat. To make matters worse, we were going to try to enter Masonboro Inlet in the middle of the night around 4 o'clock in the morning. A place you never want to try to put yourself through in the dark. But I had to escape the wind. The front was coming. We didn't want to get caught out there. So we had to muscle through. At this stage of the night, I'm exhausted. It's closer to 3:30 in the morning. The wind has kicked in sooner than it was supposed to. I know that there's going to be boats everywhere in the anchorage. I'm starting to panic. I've got to whip down the sails. Everyone's asleep, so I do it by myself. Finally, we get to a point where I'm approaching the inlet. I can't tell which light is where. There's so many channel markers, so many different lights before it and after it. You really got to slow down, which doubles, sometimes triples the amount of time it takes to get in. Finally, we get in. The winds are whipping. Drop anchor and say a prayer. I have no idea whether they're going to hold the night or not, but we got to. And we try it, and we're lucky. It's fair to say that there are several complexities when discussing a common day sailor. Perhaps it would be more accurate to call them idiosyncrasies. I'm new at sailing, so it's difficult for me to speak for those with a long history at it. But it's clear after this trip, there is one camp that is all about speed and nothing else. I'm coming home, baby! I'm coming home! You won't understand that unless you saw American Sniper or something like that. I think that was the movie American Sniper. It was the scene that was extraordinarily powerful. This guy's over in Afghanistan or Iraq, the main actor, American Sniper. I'm simply just going to go due south. I'm going to take the boat approximately 6.4 miles and I'm going to head directly to Long Island. And the goal is to, just get there. And then go touch it and then, stick my fingers and hands into the sand and then, bask in the saline solution and then turn around and come back. Of course, the tide will be wrong then. Hope you're well, but I had to start the morning. I'm coming home, baby! I'm coming home. He's crying in the scene. He's talking to his wife. Of course, he gets home from Afghanistan and he's fucking nuts. You know, he just can't. PTSD, whatever you want to call it. He can't do it. And he ends up leaving his it's just so sad. But the scene, you know, that I can relate to right now is, I'm coming home, baby. So let's face it. It's kind of an oxymoron to discuss sailing and speed in the same sentence. If you're going 10 miles an hour, that's fast in the terms of a common day sailor. Yeah, a whopping 10 miles an hour is considered fast. You gotta be kidding me. That's hysterical. It's pitiful. Look at these jewels. Sure, I know. They go much faster in the America's Cup. But that's just a whole nother breed. There's another camp that I think I fall into as a sailor, which is I really don't care how fast I go. Of course I'd like to go fast. 6, maybe 7 knots. I'm ecstatic. 5 knots, that's plenty acceptable. 4 knots, I get a little nervous. It's painful. I could accept it, but not really. But the other aspect that is separate from the whole speed issue is more related to the purity of just sailing with no assistance of an internal combustion engine. And I can really relate to it. I don't want to hear an engine either. I don't even want to hear the generator. We got the main and the jib. I don't want to hear a goddamn internal combustion engine. I just want to hear wind, waves, and water. Back to Old Line Marina by 1:30. So it is the power of these two particular aspects of sailing that can make or break a sailing team. It's like nails on a chalkboard if a sailor is obsessed with the purity of only utilizing wind, and they are bombarded by the sound of a diesel engine, hours on end. It'll drive a common man deep into a demonic state. Trust me, I've seen it. I've felt it. As much as I knew the power of the desire to be one with the wind and removed from the 21st century gadgets, I did not see the forest through the trees. The gremlins were growing in my first mate's brain, and by the time I realized how big they were, it was DEFCON 5. Like I said before, this is such a long, convoluted story. I'll do everything I can to spell it out as succinctly as possible. Up until the night of Friday, November 15th, 2024, the journey south aboard Cloud 9 was already filled with more than enough blood-pumping, heart attack moments to kill a horse. I didn't need any more. My first mate for this leg of the journey had started on November 1st, a full 2 weeks earlier, when he flew into Norfolk, Virginia, where we kicked off the second leg. We had high hopes of reaching Vero Beach, Florida, or at least Fernandina Beach, Florida. Looking back now, I should have seen the emotional tsunami building. He was teetering on the edge of insanity after spending the better part of the previous 2 weeks alone on the dock, waiting for me to fly home to Connecticut and deal with business before flying back to North Carolina so we could continue the passage south. I was stressed enough as it was. I didn't need any more emotional turmoil from the crew. But that's exactly what was waiting for me upon arrival to Deep Point Marina in Southport, North Carolina. It all happened after a ridiculously long 50-minute Uber ripoff ride from Wilmington Airport back to the marina. It was dusk when I entered the vessel. We shook hands and exchanged the basic greetings. I desperately needed something to drink and poured myself a glass of juice. I called a captain's meeting and began to spell out my plan for the next several days. I informed him we would depart in the morning at sunrise and make our way to Charleston, South Carolina, where I had never been before, a city that had been given great reviews and was just what I was looking for. If we left at 7 a.m. the next morning and ran 24 hours straight, we'd arrive at the mouth of Charleston Harbor at about sunrise, where we would traverse our way into the marina that I had chose, with just enough time to make a trip in, establish our connections, and plan a perfect expedition. All we needed to do that night was to go get some groceries, get some sleep, and get up early, and off we'd go. It was a perfect plan, except for one thing. My first mate was not at all interested. He immediately insisted we leave right now. He was adamant that the strong winds we needed to sail with speed and no engine support would be gone in the morning. We needed to leave now, he insisted. I was totally stunned. He was telling me how and when the trip was going to move forward. At this point, I'm exhausted. I've already been through a crazy long day, and I need to eat and get some sleep. I broke the news to him in a very polite yet firm way and said, "You need to get your own boat. This is my boat, and I will make the decisions on where we go and when we go there." It was unnerving to have someone who was clearly out of his mind in such a close proximity to me in such a small space. I was very vulnerable. I even felt fear. Not knowing what was going to happen next, I tried to reason with him. Let's go get something to eat and try to work this out. Nope, he wasn't interested. He was obsessed with leaving now. With every ounce of self-restraint and personal composure that I could muster, I then suggested a second time that we just go get some groceries or grab a bite to eat. But this time, he insisted even more powerfully that we leave now. Quick as a wizard, I Googled up a nearby hotel, hit book it, and told him there was a room available for him only 15 minutes from the boat. "Would you like me to book the room for you now?" I said. "No," he exclaimed. "I am not going to stay at a hotel." Tension continued to rise. It was a Mexican standoff like I had never had before on this vessel. In what seemed like an eternity, he left. It took about 20 minutes, but he packed everything up, and off he went. And that was a relief until it dawned on me. It was conceivable he could come back and kill me. Come back and kill me. Come back and kill me. I had to let that shit go and went for groceries. Within an hour, I was back on the vessel with a pre-cooked rotisserie chicken. I inhaled it, and the enormity of it all began to set in. I had just dealt with my first official act of mutiny. Thoroughly exhausted, I then went immediately to bed.